Hi, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Scenes. And today we are going to talk about I think this is such a interesting piece of information that at 13, there's actually research about this. At the age of 13, our kids stop hearing our moms, in particular, our voices. Now, I think it's so funny because we all intuitively sense this. In fact, it probably accounts for so much of our nagging. But Stanford University actually did research on this, and there is evidence, proof that somehow our voice loses the impact it had before then, if it had any. So the question we're addressing this morning is, as we noticed our kids not listening to us, did we do anything to make sure that there were other people who were kind of helping our kids and guiding our kids? So Eka couldn't be here with us today because in a very exciting situation right now, her daughter's about to get married. And so she's there setting up for the last minute stuff. But she sent in an answer, which I think is a great one and better than anything I could have come up with. So I'm going to just tell you that Eka said she volunteered at school and got to know the teachers, so she knew what kind of messaging they were getting. She knew many of their friends' parents, and luckily their parents' skills were similar to hers. They were involved in youth group at church, and she knew the leaders, so that was reassuring. Lastly, she got to know their coaches and instructors from their extracurricular activities, and if she didn't agree with what was being said, she gently voiced her opinion. They were also close to their aunts and uncles, though they did not live close to her. I think she thinks she was lucky to have most of the other adults around them have similar views as they did, and they crossed their fingers a lot. So, it's such an interesting thing because I often think of crossing our fingers as really a very strong component of raising kids. And Eka, her kids were surrounded by a lot of adults that were really worried about her kids, maybe a little less than she was, but actually maybe also with good perspective. So I'll wrap up at the end, and I'm going to pass this on to Franziska, who came up with the idea. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I read this article, I thought it was really interesting because I never thought that it had anything to do with the voice, right? I thought it was just this kind of moving away or putting some distance between yourself and your parent, and not that it was actually the voice that triggers things in your brain. But after I read this, I realized that I've taken advantage of this by, for example, asking other adults to tell I remember the last time she had to go to the doctor's visit, I gave the doctor a note and said, could you tell her to drink more water? Because I'm saying this all day long and it makes no difference.
Right. And so that's such a good fix. That's excellent. Like you jumped in there and said,
from a different, so it was not just mom nagging, but it was actually, and I've done the same thing. She has to do certain exercises every day for her posture, but she doesn't want to. And so when we visited my sister-in-law, who is also a PT, I said, why don't you reinforce this? And so she said she did the exercise with her, and now she texts her like once a week and says, just how is it going? And it's like a game changer. It's all of a sudden the importance of this has gone, up to a 90% from like a 10%.
I think it's great because I'm wondering if that's where the nagging comes from. Like, you keep saying it to your kid and they're actually not hearing it. It's kind of like our neighbors have one of these deer things that it's supposed to be a pitch that the deer don't like. But if you're past a certain age, you don't hear it, but our kids hear it. Like there's this like choice or not choice or whatever. And coming up with a solution to the droning on of us can either lead to nagging or you can what's it called? Delegate, which is great.
Right. All right, Mindy, I'm sending it to you.
Oh, and also today, Melissa reminded me that we're really going to chat. So everybody just turn their mics off and just jump in with your thoughts.
Fantastic. A couple of things come to my mind. One, good to know, but discouraging, right? To hear that news. But a couple of things. One, I'm gonna put in a plug for your team because we have that article, which I love, about a letter to my son, and it's a mom who got tired of the nagging and the yelling, and I think her son is 13. Jessica, I'm sure you can pop it up there, and instead of talking to him, she writes a letter. Writes a note, a letter, sticks under a door, and it really had an impact. I love that idea because it just gives you time and space, and they're not hearing your voice, and they can always go back and read it again. So I think that's key. And
Mindy, I think it's like texting. We have this gift of texting now, right? Where
right,
like
right,
if the voice is really the grating, annoying part of this, so texting is such a great solution.
right. And being an old,
What's
Kamira, you're off.
onto the text?
Say again. You were. I couldn't hear Kamira. I don't. Could you say that again?
What's the excuse when they don't respond to the text?
Time. Just give them time, Kamira. But one other thing I wanted to think about is, and being an older mom, of course, I go back to the old school, and this is even before my kids' time. But you can see where that old neighborhood idea of the village to raise a kid, because you may not be telling your kid to, hey, get home, or hey, is that a cigarette or whatever? I see you smoke, but your neighbors would do it too, and I think that's a wonderful concept, and I'm sorry we lost that concept because they may not hear our voice, but maybe they'll hear your neighbors down the street. So anyway, very interesting, and I have no other suggestions except good friends, know your kids' friends, and text or write. I prefer writing.
I think Ekka's idea is just what you're saying, that there are, there are adults in your kids' lives. You want to make sure that they're good communicators with your kid and they're consistent with what you want to send. But
and Sue, a lot is coming out. I read an article about the importance of grandparents in our kids' lives, and sometimes because of the way we live today, we're all over the world. Certainly not right next door as we used to be, but they're saying we're negating the influence grandparents can have on kids. So there's another resource. Anyone else? Kamira, Melissa?
I was thinking about the writing the letter and the texting, and I actually did something with my kids when they were younger, when they weren't listening to me, is I spoke in text. And what I mean is I didn't speak in long sentences. It was like one word, like laundry, or like laundry now or something, and that was it. And then I walked away, and then they would respond because I don't think they had to process everything else I was saying.
Right.
And so that worked. But also something I've noticed in my neighborhood is that a lot of the new families moving in are immigrant families. And they are taking their homes and making them a lot bigger and moving in like the grandparents and the aunts and uncles and stuff. So it's like extended family. And I just think it's so wonderful, and I kind of miss it. It wouldn't really work in my family because I was an only child, but like it's wonderful. We lost the neighborhood kind of vibe. Nobody takes care of anyone else here. But I think it's coming back again with these families. And I think, this was great.
And I guess what's key is, and what at least for me would be key, is that you all kind of buy into the same parenting philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Because as we're throwing out all these ideas, what if the neighbors believe that, by 16, it's okay to serve kids beer and you don't, if they're home. So, and grandparents too, I guess they can have different philosophies. So I guess that's kind of got to get to know the people that are around your kids.
It's even worse today. It's so much harder today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if if your kids are hearing messages that you don't agree with, I sometimes just try to reframe them. Like if they say, oh, this teacher said A, B, and C, and that was so rude, or, but this is already after they discussed it with their friends and they are all like, agreeing on some kind of messaging. And then I often just say, well, how would it be possible that they actually meant this? Or, I'm not overriding it. I'm just trying to give alternative meanings so that it's not such a clear, sometimes, hurtful message.
Or you can tell them like everybody's different. So I don't mind if there's a different message that comes into their realm, as long as the message must be like this, because then we can have a discussion with that's how they do it. This is how we do it. It's different. And now while they're still at home, your children get to practice maintaining their core values when they're in a different environment, because they're going to need that skill when they leave the house, right? So if something happens somebody else's house that doesn't happen in their house, as long as it's not dangerous or illegal or something like that, they get to practice that skill. It could be something like your family doesn't eat red meat, and they go to the cousin's house, and the cousin's house is filled with red meat. Well, they get to build up their tolerance for being in an environment where there's lots of red meat and we don't eat it.
Well, it also might mean that they try it. So there's so much here about, do you let your kid do things that you as a family, that you deemed your family wouldn't do? At some age, they're going to try it anyway. So it does open up this, like, we're trying to create these very narrow worlds so that our decisions can become our kids' decisions. Yeah. And that's never been true, right? So like going to someone's, and I think red meat is a great one because it's not political, it's not illegal, but it may be very strong valued in your house. Mm-hmm. And so that's really an interesting one. Your kid might try it.
Yeah. In our house, so I believe in using others, all kinds of formal, informal. If I see an attachment, if I see one of our kids have an attachment to somebody, I know that, I can send messages through that person, or tell them, why don't you ask so-and-so what they think about whatever it is, whatever issue we're discussing. But I've also, I use the brothers with each other, especially the older ones with the young one. You need to talk to him about such and such. Or I can think of 2 examples where the younger one really ticked me off, and I had to call the one that I knew he admired the most and say, you need to communicate with him if you want him to be here next time you come home. Working. And it was good because he has such respect for this brother, and when the brother said that's not how we treat mom, and I think it was better than me saying I'm going to punish you for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And then we have the aunts. I have a lot of girlfriends from different parts of my life, and and a lot of them didn't have children. Some of them have older children, and some of them didn't have children at all. So they became the aunts, and they really took to the role. And it's nice because the boys can have relationships with these people outside of the parents. Mm-hmm. And they've taken to the role so much that our college student reached out to me, and he was like, the care packages, it's so
much. What a terrible problem.
Feeding the entire dorm with the care package. Quick question. I tried to read the article that this came from, but you had to subscribe or something, so I did not. But how long does it last, this not hearing your voice?
Also, you can go to Stanford. There was a link on that to Stanford, because that's where the original research was done.
I put the link in the chat.
Click on that. Maybe. What, Jessica?
I put the link with the Stanford.
Excellent.
So the study was from 13 to 16 and a half. So that's the age group they tested it on.
And even at 16 and a half, were they still tuning out our voice? Wow.
Yeah. Well, and it was really, they did it they scanned the brain, right? And they looked at what happened, what reaction does the brain provide depending on what voice the teen hears.
And so it's like the deer thing. Like, it literally just isn't it's not going into they're not even grabbing it and ignoring it. It's not going in.
But did they tell us when it stops? When they start to hear our voice again? Guess not.
No.
Yeah, looking through, I'm not seeing anything.
Well, if they only picked that was their demographic, they'd have to do the second study.
I know, but it would be nice to know.
Yeah, Stanford, we want the next study. So I'm just going to tell you that my in-laws live like 6 houses down from us. And that was a power play that my kids used. Never mind, I'll go down to grandma's. Like if they didn't like dinner or if they were pissed off or something, and it drove me crazy. Like it really was like such a knife it to my heart. Like I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. I'll just go down to grandma's. So it did work for them. They're so close with my in-laws, and it's a lovely relationship. Last night, my in-laws were over for dinner, and one of my kids, my youngest kid, was home, and they were talking about songs that my mother-in-law sang to them.
Oh,
And it's so lovely. And then my
Yeah.
son said, "Well, Dad sang to me too," and I was like, "My voice is still never heard."
It's good for them to have those relationships that kind of save them from you. Like my brothers were such good uncles because they were like, I only have a brother. Well, I have a much older sister, and they were like, she doesn't know what it's like to be a little boy. So we're going to make sure. And they would send things and do things, and they would override me in certain areas. Like I declare no more of a certain type of toy, and they'd be like, that's child abuse. But that enabled relationships. And relationships are important because as the boys grow older, they could talk to the uncles who are younger. I'm older. They could talk to them about relationships and things like that, and it stemmed from she doesn't understand what goes on in the playground. So, or when one of them was a toddler at the dinner table, he was very upset with me. And he said, you're not my mommy. No, he was mad at me and he said something. I said, well, I'm the only mommy you have. He says, no, I have a better mommy. And I said, oh, really? Who's your better mommy? He said, Rams.
Yeah.
Out of the mouths, right? Out of the mouths.
Anybody else have a final word here? All right. Oh, yes.
Good luck.
Kamira.
Good luck. Wait, that's my final word to all the moms out there. Good luck.
Here, or this. This is another option.
Or this, or whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kamira, who are you interviewing tomorrow?
Okay, tomorrow we're having who was up last week, but unfortunately had emergency. So we're going to be talking personal finance tomorrow with Melanie Mortimer, and she is with, the stock market game. She's with the foundation that produces that and a lot of other stuff. So she has some cool resources for us. That's
Cool.
Excellent.
Important.
Well, we're glad to get her on. That's great. So if you're looking to listen to this, you're going to post something, right? You'll post something about it. Okay, fantastic. Tomorrow at 10:30. And I have Wednesday and Thursday this week because I am talking to Shantara McBride and Rosalind Weissman, who wrote a book called Courageous Discomfort. And it really it's 20 questions about race and racism answered. And I'm seeing myself in all of the stories that are being told on the side of getting it wrong. So I'm really excited to talk to them. I think, there's so many questions as a white person that I don't know where to turn to. And this book really answers them. So I'm really grateful. It's written for kids, but I'm really seeing myself in it and learning from it. So I really recommend the book. And she's there Wednesday morning. And then, maybe Wednesday I'll remember to tell you about Thursday. All right, everybody. Thanks for being with us this week. See you next week.
Bye-bye.